When it comes to reassuring a traumatized 19-year-old, I'm about as expert as a palsy victim doing brain surgery with a pipe wrench.
Oh my, that's aggressive. Um, hmm. I think I've heard that before.
I feel like you have. I'm pretty sure it is a movie you have seen. I
What
can't
movie be throwing out cerebral palsy references? Hint? Can I have a hint?
Um, it is a very, very stylized movie with a humongous ensemble cast from the mid 2000s.
Huh. So it's, well, let's see, Snatch came out in like 99. Um, Stylized movie. It's an American movie?
It is an American movie.
Dang it.
Um,
Joey?
I can't give you the director or it'll give it away.
Well, at this point, I don't know nothing. So,
It's Robert Rodriguez directed it
okay. Okay.
with a guest scene by his boy and our fave, Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, is this from Sin City?
It is from Sin City.
Okay. And that's why it sounds somewhat familiar. We went down that road not too long ago.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spero to start.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to the Average Joe's Movie Club Cast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And we are just 1 week away from Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble. And we got an all-new podcast for you. We are entering the Joeyverse, which is a mini-series I've created to pick movies that will warm my podcast partner Joey's cold, dark heart. First of all, we'll get puzzled by why our guy Quentin Tarantino likes him some new wave French cinema so much as we check out Jean-Luc Godard's Band of Outsiders from 1964. I think that movie came out. And we got a movie Joey has seen so many times that he didn't even feel the need to whip it out for this one to get brushed up on those old Boondock Saints, somewhat defeating the purpose of the miniseries, but I digress. In nome Patre et Filii et Spiritus Sancti? Yeah, something like that.
So, first of all, I was wondering if you were going to notice that, but two, I literally have already watched that movie twice this year. So it was just, it was like, I just was like, I've already watched it twice this year. If I'd only watched it like once or had not watched, I would have 100% watched it. But I've already watched it twice this year. And I'm going to watch it in like I'm going to watch it in March, like, because I watch it like every March.
Oh, what's so special about March? St. Patrick's Day?
There you go. There you go.
I've only seen it twice. Well, no, 3 times now. Anywho.
I've seen it 6 or 7 times since I've had Letterboxd, and God knows how many times I've seen it in between that, because it was always that movie that was like, oh my God, you've never seen this? A bunch of people would be hanging out, so somebody would show it, or we would show. I can't imagine if I had had Letterboxd since I was like 18, how many times this movie would be logged. It's ridiculous.
And just a heads up, we do discuss our full thoughts on films, so if you haven't seen it, might want to skip forward to avoid any of those spoilers.
And if you want to be a part of the club, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment, because we would love to hear from you.
So what's new with you, Mr. Porter?
What is new with me? I don't really think there's anything new.
Looking like Jerry Garcia these days?
No, like I right now with the like my monetary situation and everything, I just literally go to work and come home. Like I work 45-ish hours, I come home. I was hoping to pick some shit up out of the Barnes and Noble sale, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So we'll see.
Which ones you looking at?
Oh my god, my list is huge. In any Kurosawa that I don't have is always a priority. The second Kurosawa Eclipse set, because I have the first one. If the Arrow sale was going on, I'd want the second Shaw scope. Show has been on my list for a hot minute. My own Private Idaho. And there's some new, or it's newer to me, and I think it is newer to the list. It's a Japanese movie. I think it's like Japanese New Wave or something, but it's like from the 60s, I think. But there's like pink all over the cover, and I cannot remember what it's called. I can find out probably pretty quickly by going to my list where I keep everything. Let's see if I have updated my Criterion wish list.
Gosh, I haven't done that in forever.
My Criterion collection.
Just haven't had the desire to buy any physical media. Usually I just throw a couple on my Christmas list and call it a year.
Fair. Of course, now I can't even find it. So it's fine. I don't remember what it is off the top.
That sounds like Tokyo Drifter, but I don't know.
That might be the correct one, judging by like that name sounds familiar. I can pull it up real quick here on the old internet, the old box of letters.
That's the only thing I can think of that's like Japanese New Wave.
That cover is different than the one I'm used to seeing, but reading it seems about right. So I think that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that picture's different than the Criterion cover, but also Tokyo Drifter Criterion. That's not quite right. I'll figure it out and tell you off pod. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, nothing really new that I have going on. I live a sadly uneventful life. I watched a lot of horror movies during October, like after we did our Halloween special, and I'm gonna talk about some of those in a bit. But
nice.
That's really about it.
More. Right on. Well, I've always been involved with like Cub Scouting since we've gotten started. Actually, we started the podcast right after I first became a leader with my son's unit. But now I'm the head honcho. I'm the Cub Master. That means I gotta take all these kids out camping a couple times this fall, which got my third camp out coming up this weekend. So been pretty exhausting. It's a lot of work. I enjoy like working with the kids and like teaching them scout skills and stuff, but like the whole business side is kicking my butt because there's a lot of drama and stuff. So not enjoying that part, but yeah, do it for a couple years and get a little patch for it, and yeah, it's the Cub Master experience. Gains at the gym going a little better these days. So like, I got instead of drinking coffee now, I get this stuff called pre-workout, which is like super coffee, and it tastes like Kool-Aid kind of. And I went to this place called Lean Kitchen that was like next to a Little Caesars because we went to go grab a pizza right before the game the other day. And I was like, oh, so they sell pre-workout, and they had this brand called Kick-In, and got that, and it was this cherry limeade. I'm like, okay, this will be fine. Oh, this stuff tastes like ass. Like, You know those like Ghost energy drinks that are sugar free?
The Ghost ones are terrible. Ghost, I do know what you're talking about, and Ghost they're one of the 3 different orange cream flavors, ones that have orange cream, and their orange cream is fucking hot trash. Anyway, continue.
It just has that like artificial taste to it, and it's just like, oh, it's just not for me. I'd rather drink water or something sweet. I don't want something pretend sweet because it just doesn't do it for me. Man, it's working for Sundays. I mean, the Vikings had a pretty lousy beginning first half of the year, but they picked up some momentum getting Josh Dobbs after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. So yeah, it's been kind of a fun ride. 5 games in a row now.
And your new running back tore his Achilles. It's like at least the 3rd Achilles tear this season in the NFL, at least.
Yep, Cam Akers tore his too. So now we're going to see more Ty Chandler in addition to Alexander Madison. Our run games have been pretty suspect, but Cam had a really good game against the Niners. So sad to see that he got hurt in the game. I think it was against the Falcons he got hurt. But Ty Chandler's a pretty good back that they weren't given enough chances to. So hopefully he'll make a name for himself next. And Gamecocks have been pretty lousy all season. So
I mean, you guys.
Isn't it funny that the Clemson and Carolina's gonna be on the SEC network this year?
SEC network at 7:30. I mean, it's wild to think like we're coming up on this game, and for Justin and I and other people who live in our state, this is a big. This is the deal. This is equivalent to like Bedlam or the Civil War, or the Red River Shootout, world's largest outdoor cocktail party, that kind of stuff. But we're sitting at 6-4. You guys are 4-6. Like, you have to win out to be bowl eligible, and then there's still no game. I mean, 6-6. There's like 41 bowl games like you could probably get in, but. You have to beat Kentucky, and Kentucky started out strong, but ever since Georgia beat the brakes off of them, they have sucked.
Yeah.
And
is that who they play tomorrow or this weekend?
Yeah, Carolina plays Kentucky, and then
Clemson have anybody interesting?
North Carolina. So we have a conference game, which we're out of the conference picture, but North Carolina's a good team. Drake May is like a top-rated quarterback prospect.
And beat the brakes off of us first game, yeah.
So that ought to be interesting, but we seem to our quarterback Cade Klubnik seems to be finding his rhythm, almost at the end of his first full year starting, seems to be working better with the OC. So if we win that game, then we're 7-4 going into the game in Williams-Brice, a chance to go 8-4 with the bowl to then go 9-4 would be a good strong finish to the season.
I would say that game's kind of up in the air. I mean, either team might show up, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, rivalry games never. It doesn't matter. Like, you can have an 11-0 team and an 0-11 team, and it just you never know what's going to happen in rivalry games. But 2 big games for both teams. So I did not think you guys were going to escape the battle of the Gamecocks versus JSU.
That was pretty crazy. I was on a hike and I kept looking down. I was just like, why are we losing to them?
Because they're a good team, so it wasn't anything crazy. Yeah, they were 7-2 when they played you guys, so 7-3. Okay. Yeah, and then as far as pro football, I've been on the Duval train this year, and man, they got their ass beat by San Francisco last week. Just
Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Duval, Clemson South, as it were.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they got Trevor and Travis, so they got wow.
Oh, Deshaun Watson going out for the whole year. Dang.
Well, he probably got his comeuppance a little bit. So.
And meanwhile, we're talking about movies, and we could be watching Bengals Ravens right now.
It's probably
an actual good Thursday night game.
And the Bengals need it. I found the movie. I actually logged into my Criterion channel wish list, and it's Branded to Kill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's his other one. So nice. No wonder you thought it looked somewhat familiar.
Yeah,
it's like 2 movies I think he did around the similar time.
So yeah, But
Szechuan Suzuki, I want to say. Anywho, so let's talk about movies with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. Got the good, the bad, and the what the fuck's up with that name? You?
I've got Billy, Stein, question mark, and Scream to the Future.
All right. So what's Stein?
Okay, Stein, as in R.L. Stein, is that you play it? So I watched the Fear Street trilogy, which was based off of some of his, loosely based off of some of his other stuff.
Okay.
But I watched that during Spooktober 2023 after our Halloween podcast. I really enjoyed them. And they're not. I'm not gonna try to act like they're like award-winning masterpieces or anything like that. But they were a lot of fun, especially all streamed together and going back in time. The first one definitely.
Let's admit it, Joey. If you're watching it, it's not a masterpiece.
I mean, I've watched Chinatown this year.
That's true, but I made you, so. Well, no.
No.
Oh, that was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I made you. Okay.
Yeah,
fair.
and I watched that. Oh, and I watched Witness for the Prosecution.
Oh, I am very intrigued about that. Am I going to hear about that?
You maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. No, when it comes to horror movies, unless it's Scream, I'm probably not watching a masterpiece. That's also not true. But they definitely had some Scream homage in the first one, definitely some like old school original slashers in the second one, and the third one was like a time period colonial witch hunt kind of thing. But there's a lot of fun. They're on Netflix.
Okay.
Some good little series that all kind of ties.
They're like 90 minutes apiece, or?
They're 90, maybe a little more than 90, but yeah.
Okay.
But you start with Fear Street 94 and go backwards to Fear Street 1666. All right. Give me the bad.
All right. So right after the podcast, I think it was, I watched Jeepers Creepers. How about those peepers with Justin Long? Pretty good movie monster, but man, this movie, everyone has to be really, really dumb in order for it to happen. Because, let's see. It's your typical, they're about to get run off the road by this crazy driver, and then they see him doing something crazy on the side of the street, and they're like, oh, we better go check it out. What if that was you? So it's a lot of the horror tropes with got to go back and check in order for it to happen. But as cliche as it was, the big bat dude that's like the monster was pretty cool, but that's about it. There's a part where Justin Long finds himself in this underground cavern where he sees all the victims have been nailed to the cavern walls and ceilings. So that was pretty dope. But Jeepers Creepers didn't quite do it for me.
It's been a long, long time since I've seen that, and I don't remember being super impressed back then. So
apparently there's a couple sequels too, but I heard not to waste my time and wasn't really planning to after that first one. Sorry.
Fair.
How about Scream to the Future?
All right, that's another horror movie that I watched after we did our horror podcast.
Let me guess, it's not going to be nominated for any Oscars unless it's Cocaine Bear. You watch that again?
I did not watch that again. I mean, that's not just going to be nominated for Oscars. It's going to sweep the Oscars. Every category, even the ones it's not nominated for, gonna win. No, I watched. I think it was on Amazon. I think it's on Amazon. Totally Killer. The movie with Kierna Shipka, aka Sabrina. So again, kind of dumb, but I enjoyed it. You take some Scream references and some, Scream-esque rules and meta-ness and mix it with Back to the Future by going back in time to try to stop murders before they happen.
What could go wrong?
All sorts of fun, interesting stuff. I know there are a lot of people, there were a lot of conservatives that were like, oh my God, this movie's so woke and blah, 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 blah on the internet because, you took a girl who was supposed to be 17 in the year 2023 and sent her to 1987. I don't think what you expect was going to happen. So
times have changed.
just a little bit. But I thought it was fun. Definitely not winning any awards, but neither is Jeepers Creepers, so you can fuck right off.
Fair.
Give me the good.
Good. So after the last podcast, I took y'all's recommendation and checked out X and Pearl. Pretty good shows. Mia Goth. Both way different than I expected. X being like kind of this kind of alternate version of a Texas Chainsaw story. Kind of interesting how it's focused kind of around the porn realm, and that's really what triggers these old crazies to go to get these people off their lawn. Yeah, I think if you go up to a place and say, "Hey, can I still rent that house?" and the guy throws a gun in your face, maybe you should just move on to the next property. But just saying, the movie's got to happen. Pearl was like way different than I expected, and I'm really curious how this trilogy will continue since X and Pearl weren't quite as linked as what I was hoping. But still intrigued to why the hell Mia is in both of them. So hopefully we'll figure that out. Maybe some of Pearl's. We never really got why Pearl was into her at the time. So I'm curious to see what more gets fleshed out. But it's very interesting movies about repressed sexuality bubble into the top.
So, I mean, part of the reason that she plays Pearl in Pearl is that she played Pearl in X in a suit.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then plus they get to keep the same star throughout the trilogy. Mm-hmm. Time for Maxine.
But there has to be something to the fact that like this lady was like macking on her like younger self.
I mean, I guess she saw something in her, reminded her of herself. I mean, clearly, Pearl has some issues. I think it'd be cool to have a movie that's in between Pearl and X, and I thought we were going to get a little bit more of that in Pearl, where you got more of what was in between the two. But
definitely just enough connection tissue to make it good. But
I mean, obviously,
there's some more meat on the bone there.
It's in the same place, and all of that. But also, like, X was, like, dirty, like, grimy, like Texas Chainsaw or Halloween or something like that. Some of those, like, really early slasher movies. It was really dirty.
Yeah, Pearl was almost like a kind of an old-fashioned kind of period piece kind of deal. I mean, it was, like, all the way back in the World War I days.
Yeah, and it was made to look like it was in, like, Technicolor, which I really like, because I love Technicolor. Mm-hmm. So, I thought it was, like, it's a very good juxtaposition, and they make for very different like entries, but I think that's really good too, because like what happened when you watched all the Friday the 13th, they all fucking blend together, so like because they're it's kind of the same formula. So be interesting to see where Maxine goes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get the whole tease about like how she's like related to this whole like televangelists that are all over the TV and X. So yes, curious to see how this, what's next for that part. So Billy Loomis.
As in Billy Wilder.
Oh, okay. Van Wilder. Wait a minute. No, Billy Wilder. Yeah, that's award-winning stuff right there.
Yeah, that is award-winning stuff. You got Sunset Boulevard and Witness for the Prosecution, which I have watched this month.
Okay. Which one do you like better?
Sunset okay. was better. Witness was very good. I mean, I do really like courtroom dramas. A Few Good Men and like A Time to Kill come to mind. That I watched a couple of years ago. But Charles Lawton in Witness for the Prosecution is just crazy good performance. Remind me, even though it was before I saw the movie first, it reminded me a lot of Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird, another kind of courtroom drama movie where it was just a very super strong lead performance, kind of carries the movie. And then I liked at the end of the movie, it tells you can't talk about it, you can't give away like what happens in the courtroom kind of thing in the credits, so that was really good. And then Sunset Boulevard. Bro.
Did you know that was the I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille, that movie?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sunset Boulevard had been like on my watch list for I don't know, like 2 years or something since Carl had watched it, and I guess it's been a few years since we did Sabrina on the cast, but I need to watch more Billy Wilder, and I'm just kind of bad about it because every Billy Wilder movie I've watched, I've really liked. I think my least favorite is 7-Year Itch, and that's still very good. So,
Yep.
Excuse me. But and Sunset Boulevard just like it's somewhat biographical about the actual lead actress was a a silent movie star and
Right.
had a hard transitioning to talkies and all that stuff, and it was so good, and you kept getting these little extra layers, and Billy Wilder knows how to make a movie. Like he was so great. He just knows what he's doing. He knows how to intrigue you.
Sunset Boulevard or Double Indemnity? I'd go Sunset.
I think Sunset is probably better. I think that's more of a 1A, 1B, like kind of the day of the week, which one I would prefer. Double Indemnity is a little bit more in my typical wheelhouse. Being I guess noir, but then again, Sunset has got that meta element to it, where it's a movie about movie or people in movies, and I also really dig that. So I don't know, that's really hard to say between the two.
Notice any Mulholland Drive connections?
No, because I'm not on enough drugs for Mulholland Drive. I mean, I'm sure maybe there was like some scenery or something like that, but
I mean, they're both named after a road in California, in LA, so Hollywood.
Is that it? Is that the stretch you're gonna make? Is they're both named after streets in Hollywood?
Well, it's a pretty easy one. Low hanging fruit.
I mean, or it's just they're both named after streets.
They're inspired off of each other. Well, obviously David Lynch off of Sunset, so
I'm just I'm gonna ask you what the fuck with that name. What the fuck is with that name?
Mulholland Drive?
No, your category, my guy. What the fuck?
Oh, you want to move on?
Yeah, I'm moving. I am because if we continue, we're going to get bogged down here. We're going to go back to the same debate that we've had for years. So we're just move on.
Okay. So I watched Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, which should have been just called, like, My Life as a Sea Monster. So, like, did you ever see 8th grade? Like, the whole, like, hi, I'm a kid in high school and my life's hard and I'm going to talk to the screen about it kind of deal?
I mean, I don't think I've seen that, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, like...
See, this is a good movie, but it's wrapped in so many, like, other, like, movie skins that it, I found it kind of obnoxious because, I mean, essentially it's this regular girl who goes out in the ocean and, she finds out that she turns into a kraken. Just like Turning Red, where the kid turns into a panda, and gosh, there's so many you just go through my Letterboxd review and all the different movies it rips off. So it's I don't know, I just find it real frustrating whenever you're watching a movie and you just want to take in what this particular story is, but you're like, well, they got that from Inside Out and they got that from Turning Red and they got that from Toy Story. Those aren't the exact movies, but that's what the kind of movie this is. And it bombed big. I mean, for as good as the animation and, it's a fun climax and stuff with like the evil mermaid fighting the Krakens at the end. So all that's fine. But yeah, I mean, nobody saw this because it was called Ruby Gillman, and it's like, what the fuck is that? And so no one saw it.
Yeah, because you're like Ruby Gillman, and then you started talking about it was the Kraken movie, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing like advertisements for that.
Mm-hmm.
They should have just called it "I'm a Kraken from the Sea."
Yeah, it's something simple like with a movie like called Ruby Gillman. You're like, am I like supposed to read the book first? I mean, this sounds kind of like all the way already along the trail.
Ruby Gillman sounds like a Woody Allen movie. Like, I haven't seen that many Woody Allen movies, but that just seems like, or it sounds like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like more of an artsy kind of film. Just Ruby Gillman.
And the funny thing is, Gillman is like, it's they're fish people, so Gillman.
They think they're so clever.
Yep.
What were they? Was Ruby red?
And only the women Krakens get like really big and monstrous. Like the little Krakens are, they're the boy Krakens are just little chunky dudes, and they're just kind of quirky.
Oh, they're
So,
just little guys.
yeah. And that reminded, well, anyways, yeah. This reminded me of that, reminded me of this, reminded me of that. So, you know how that goes. Okie dokie. So, our first movie tonight, we're going to be talking about Band of Outsiders. And let's allow the fine folks at the Criterion to set this one up with their description of Band of Outsiders. So, 4 years after Breathless, Jean-Luc Godard reimagined the gangster film with an even more radical take with Band of Outsiders, or Band Apart. In it, two restless men enlist the object of both of their fancies, Anna Karenina, to help them commit a robbery at her house. This audacious, wildly entertaining French New Wave gem is at once sentimental and insociate, effervescently romantic and melancholic. Yeah, I think they just kind of pulled out some adjectives there. And it features
Succinct, maybe?
some of Godard's most memorable set pieces, maybe, including the headlong race through the Louvre, which we'll get there, and then the unshakably cool Madison dance sequence. So, yeah, a couple good moments in here, but let's talk about the package as a whole. So, you want to read off any of these fun facts?
All right. Its French title derives from the phrase faire bande apart, which means to do something apart from the group.
Which does fit really well for this being like a robbery movie where they're not really interested in the robbery for the most part.
It is Spine 174, which is special since...
Well, it's special for me since
special for Justin since he watched this before appearing on the Criterion Groups for the first time with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so that was in 2019. There's a moment in here where they're like, moments of silence last forever, and they're like, oh, let's sit silent for a minute, but it's actually like 36 seconds if you're counting.
I thought that was really cool, but also it made me think back. Do you remember a few years ago? I think it was, it was Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
That's
Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi, not Return of the Jedi, but The Last Jedi, yes.
Right.
Where there's a spot where they're in space and everything is silent, and they do where the ship crashes into the other ship or whatever, and how they had to start putting like notices before the beginning of the movie or on the theater, like, hey, there's a scene where there's no sound, this is normal. Like, so like if they did that today, they would, for this movie, like this movie came out today, they'd have to do that same thing because people would be like, why is it silent? It's like, they literally told you it was a moment of silence, my guy.
Quentin Tarantino named his production company A Band Apart after this particular film. Yeah, he's a big Godard head. You can have this one. This is up your alley.
When the three are at a cafe midway through the film, and Odile goes to the lower floor of the cafe to use the bathroom, the music playing in the background is from Jacques Demy's musical, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which we did on this podcast on season 2, episode 1. So like episode 21? 11?
Yeah, probably.
Was that episode 11?
I think it was 21. I think we had 20 movies in the first go around.
We each had 10, and so like episode 21. It's on the channel. It's a very good episode. That's when we were doing. It was actually our first episode of doing
themes, right?
Themes, and that theme was musical, and I picked Umbrellas of Cherbourg, because it inspired one of my favorite movies. I believe the accompanying movie with that was Dancer in the Dark. Which was also not my favorite movie, but a good juxtaposition to how like bright and colorful Umbrellas was. So
definitely a contrast there.
Yeah, definitely
anti-musical.
Anti-musical. Definitely a good one. If you want to go back and check it out, you should. It's good stuff.
And we took 25 days to shoot this. Not surprising, since it kind of looks like they just kind of made it up as they went along. So, yeah, let's get into it. So, this is a French movie, like I mentioned earlier, that doesn't seem really interested in, like, its robbery plot, and more so with, like, just hanging out with these three characters in a love triangle, and they're kind of poking fun at the genre as they go along. Can always depend on Godard for some weird choppy editing. If you ever watch Breathless, it's very known for its jump cuts, and then that whole like introductory sequence where we're seeing the three characters like slam cut like constantly with the jazzy music. Good stuff there to open it up, but slows down quite a bit after that. What any introductory thoughts to this guy?
I didn't really pick up that. I guess it was supposed to be poking fun at the genre.
Which
Maybe
is
if I
mild.
that.
Like one of the biggest instances I saw was like whenever they're getting that ladder to like break up in the window, and they're like, first of all, they're like outside in their masks, so they look ridiculous and are like all exposed, and then they're taking forever to lift this ladder up, and then he goes all the way up there and he doesn't even break the window. He just bitches about it. It's just like, wow, like you said in your review, these guys are really bad at this.
Yeah, like I just was like, man, these guys. What this is like the Three Stooges. Like that's the kind of music that I kind of expected right then. Yeah, I was what you have next about how it's in the winter and in black and white. Like the shots weren't ugly. The shots were framed well. The shots themselves were fine. It was just the stuff in the shots.
Yeah, it's France during the winter time, so very bleak, and the two characters definitely want to make their way to South America by the end of this. But like usually you think of like Paris, you like lines of trees with like spring blooms and just very nice and effervescent. But this is a very bleak, wintry French setting, so not the nicest of times.
Oh yeah, and then they do the scene. I guess it's not from Tombstone. I guess it's from
It's like Billy the Kid or something, and a sheriff, and they like reenact like a shootout.
Yep.
Foreshadowing. It's very dramatic with their getting shot by Pretend.
They do. I think I noticed how they like move around the car and stuff is weird. Like, because there's a scene where that's actually later in the movie where the dude could just get in the car, and instead he like backs up while the car is backing up and then gets in the car. And this whole scene where they do the fake shootout and he's just like trying to claw on the car like he's dying, and he's like, oh yeah, let me drive, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I remember that now.
When they put the top up later, like the top is ragged and there's like the back window is gone, and like I don't know, it's like a nice looking car with the roof down, and you put the roof up and it looks like garbage.
There's a lot of weird transportation because there's like random times where she's riding a bike and then like she's having to take this little boat over this really, really skinny channel at some points, I guess, to be sneaky, and it's just a lot of hassle with the transportation. I got a kick out of the fact that like whenever they're riding around, at least like it's not like green screen, or not green screen, but like rear projection like driving. Like, it seemed like every time they were running around the vehicle, they were actually like in the car, which was nice. And it was either like we were staring at the back of their heads, or like the camera was mounted to the hood looking at them. So very distinct with definitely the way the Godard shoots car scenes.
And then we get into some of the
well, let's see. They meet. Yep. Go ahead with how they meet up.
Yeah. So they meet at like an English class, and the English teacher. So they come in and they like sit in weird places and they move around, and then the teacher is reading them Romeo and Juliet in French, but then wants them to transcribe it back in English. And I'm like, bruh, like I get that that's actually in like old style English. I couldn't imagine trying to translate Old English from French. That seems rough.
Yeah, you would think with a foreign language class that like she'd be like having them like constantly like repeat stuff back in English, but this is like all in France or French, and the only thing she wants them to write down in English is just transcribe things. So kind of a strange English class, but I suppose this is kind of with them talking about Romeo and Juliet, they might be foreshadowing some doomed romance, perhaps. Who knows?
But yeah, so you have Odile, and you have the two guys. Is it Franz and
Arthur?
Arthur, and I don't remember which one. I think Arthur was already in the class and brings Franz to the class, or vice versa.
I think it's
His
vice
idea-
versa. I think the guy that kind of looks like the late samurai guy, that's Franz. And he's the one that originally has the hots for her, and then Arthur tries to move in on it.
Yeah, and she had told him about this money, and then he tells his buddy, and then also his buddy's uncle, which comes up mattering later. And then they kind of start concocting this plan, but this one guy's just like macking on her hard, like right off the cut, like, you know, have you even kissed before? And like they both definitely look and seem like they are much older than she is. Like, I know in the description it says young guys, but they definitely seem to be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years older than
Yeah, all these actors seem way too old to be doing this classroom meet cute kind of deal, which is what we get. She lives with her aunt, and she kind of like fantasizes about having this money, and like she mentions it to Franz, but yeah, it gets like blown way way more out of proportion than what she expected, because I don't think she ever wanted to really act on it, even though the guys are like all about it.
Yeah, and I definitely, you know, it was that we're taking advantage of you to get this money, kind of thing. A lot of like manipulation, but then also, you know, she's a girl with a crush or 2 crushes or 75 crushes, whatever, and is like, or I guess, you know, in love, as she said, throughout.
Do you get the big attraction for Anna Karenina? Like, I get that she's like an attractive brunette with like big puppy dog eyes, and she's pretty, but like her being like this French New Wave, like sex icon, I'm not quite getting that.
I mean, I really like her face. Like maybe in different clothes or something. I mean, granted, she was in, I guess, a schoolgirl outfit most of the movie, but you know, it's not super revealing. I mean, I thought that with the way her hair was done, I don't remember which movie it was in, and it might have been even in an interview or something, that there was something that I saw where Jennifer Lawrence's hair was very similar to that, and I thought she looked a lot like Jennifer Lawrence in this movie, and I love Jennifer Lawrence, so I was down with her. But I mean, I can see what you're saying. You're not getting the obsession. I mean, she was in like 7 Godard movies, like his version
his
of
muse,
his version of Mifune.
It was better to watch this movie like knowing that a lot of like the conversations didn't amount to much. Like, I wasn't like hanging like on every word, and more or less I was like more or less taking in like the environments and kind of the mood of each scenes. But then like I kind of felt like I needed more to take away with there, so I ended up reading back through like all the subtitles to see what I could glean. So I'll get into that more shortly.
There were things that I kept noticing. So we mentioned the coffee shop scene earlier or whatever. Where they would do things where they would just switch how they sat, like all moved around where they were sitting, and like moved their drinks around instead of sitting in the same place. And I thought that was strange. I don't know if there was a reason for that, or it was supposed to just kind of seem cool, but like one would get up and sit beside the other one, which forced one to move, and then that one would do the same, and it was just kind of weird. And then, you know, they also like tried to, I don't want to say drug, but I guess spike her Coca-Cola with the schnapps.
Okay, I didn't even catch that. But I did see where she ran into a tiger in an alley, because that was random.
I thought it was like a petting zoo or like a zoo or something, because
oh, really?
I was wondering why she went home, because she was like, I'm gonna go home, and then, you know, she took the money to go shopping, and then she took, I thought it, you know, it looked like she was taking meat out of the refrigerator, like, oh, making a sandwich or something, you know, to take with her to eat. While
did she give that? She gave that to the tiger.
Yeah, she threw it on like the ground.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I was wondering what that slab of meat was all about on the table.
Yeah, she gave it to the random tiger.
So we already talked about the silent sequence, and the deconstructed dancing. Did you enjoy that part? I mean, how do you not?
I'm trying to think back.
Because the music's going, and then all of a sudden the music stops, and you can just hear them like stamping and stuff, and this cool kind of moment.
It was okay. Like
Um,
that's honestly kind of my opinion to this whole movie is that it's okay. So
Pick up any of Godard's meta commentary there. I got a kick out of whenever he was like making fun of the guys dancing. It's like, oh, he's looking at his feet. So to get into some of this dialogue here, so like, yeah, throughout, like I noticed they were talking about like the ability to kill and like politics and like male female attraction. So here are a few quotes I kind of enjoyed. Anyway, screw it all. Do you even know what screw means? No, what? Then don't say it.
I do remember that because I was like, that kind of makes. I mean, you don't, screw it all. You don't understand what it's context there. I mean, I get it, but still.
So they'll be talking about the robberies, but then like in the background, like there's like these news alerts where like they're saying like these different countries are being invaded, and it's like all these like macro problems, and they're very petty with like their love triangle and robbery. I do want to know, where do we get this peppermint soda, and does that taste any good? Because I've never heard of peppermint soda, and I'm quite intrigued.
Well, yeah, and see, at first, because he was like a peppermint soda, so she was like ordered a Coke, and he's like, okay,
Oh,
a
is
Coke
that
and
the?
a schnapps.
Oh, they're tricking her into drinking Coke with
they,
schnapps.
they say Coke. She asked for a Coke. One of the guys asked for a schnapps, and the other guy's like, don't forget my peppermint soda. And so she has the Coke in the bottle and they give her a glass, and she pours it in there. And the dude's got the white liquid in what looks kind of like it's not a shot glass, but it looks kind of similar. And then when she gets up and goes to the bathroom, he takes his and pours it into the rest of her Coke. And nothing came of it. I was expecting something to happen of it, but it definitely seemed like they were trying to spike her drink. But
So here's some of that Godard commentary. So he says, Odile wonders if the boys notice her breasts moving as she dances. Franz thinks of nothing, thinks of everything and nothing, uncertain if reality is becoming dream or dream reality. So yeah, this is kind of an example of some of the more pretentious things that Godard's saying. I mean, it's a pretty interesting written script, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it really flows. Nothing they felt could prevent events from taking their course. Under crystal skies, Arthur, Odelia, and Franz crossed bridges suspended over glassy rivers. The moats gelid, the water dead. The taste of ashes was in the air. It's very poetic for what we got here. And then here's another scene. Did you see how white her thighs are? Funny, there are no police cars around here. They're around. They're using idiot detecting devices. You said you weren't lovers. I told you she's a liar. Where is she? I don't know. The bitch. So, some very interesting dialogue woven in here that I just had to pick out for podcast pleasure.
yeah, the did you see how white her thighs are? I don't remember why they had her, like why they were looking at her stockings there. I know later she takes her stockings off and they use them as stockings to cover their face, but I don't remember why. But then we were like, did you see how white her thighs were? And it's like, okay.
Well, they're horny, so
I mean,
such
yeah.
as it is.
I also forgot about the damn uncle. But so we got and I forgot about him at the we get to the end and I'm like, the fuck is going on here? And like the movie ends and I'm asking Carl and I'm like, well, this wasn't the guy with the money because this was the guy with the money. Well, who is this guy? And they're like, he was like, that's the uncle. I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense now because he doesn't go, hey unc, or he's just like, you bastard. And you're like, who's this motherfucker?
Yeah, he just kind of like...
They're all in like hats and trench coats and shit. And it's like, none of you are La Samurai. So I'm confused.
Yeah, he just kind of wanders up and then there's that whole weird shootout. We skipped right over the part where they're running through the Louvre. Oh yeah, now we're done talking about it. So anyways.
Oh, also, I thought it was weird. So we were talking about the Louvre and they run through it at that point to break Jimmy Johnson's record by 0.2 seconds. But there's another part where they're in the car and they're driving and she's like, what's this white building? And they're like, the Louvre. And I'm like, how's this bitch lived near the Louvre her whole life and not know what it is? I get that she like was sheltered on like this little island or whatever, but like I think you would know what the Louvre is. That'd be like that's essential to like living in like DC and being like, what's the Capitol building or the Lincoln Memorial? Like, but anywho,
or like the White House even. So
yeah,
so the mask looks super cool, but kind of seem overkill for this middle of the day kind of robbery thing. We already talked about the ladder scene, which cracked me up quite a bit. They're sure taking all this bad luck out on her. Oh yeah, because they start like kind of like they tie her up and they kind of beat on her, and so they kind of turn into assholes.
yeah, because they attack the door and then they stuff her aunt in like this closet, not a like a closet, like a modern closet, like a, I guess the closet's not the right word.
It's
It
like
has
a cabinet kind of thing. That's
yeah,
how
it's
I
like
saw it described in one place.
it has a name other than closet, but I mean it's a closet for clothes. It's not one that's built into your room. It's a chest or a
piece of furniture. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they think that they killed her, and then
because they come back the next day because the room is locked, and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, you better have the key or whatever, and like they come back and the aunt's there, and so she's all involved with it. Continue.
and they pull a gun, and she's like, "It's not. I'm not scared of you. It's not loaded." And they shoot the
wall.
Shoot the wall, and then she gives them the key, and they stuff her in the closet. And then they think they killed her, and then they like check the refrigerator and find some money, and they find some money throughout the place, but it's not the full amount of money. But they decide that they're going to skedaddle with what they've got, and then they jump in the car, and then I guess was it Franz?
Don't they drive off but then come back because to
Franz,
check on her?
Franz was like, I'm going to stay and check and make sure she's really dead, but then they. Okay. They are driving on the highway, and the narration is they saw the uncle's car, and for some reason in my head I thought it was Mr. Stoltz's car that they saw. So they turn around, and then they come through like the back and see Franz's uncle like digging in the doghouse and getting the money, and then Franz and they like have this almost like duel style walk down where they just shoot at each other until they both die.
Yeah, I think that's Arthur and the uncle.
Yeah, Arthur and the uncle. It's not Franz, but Arthur. And then the Mr. Stoltz shows up, and then they run away, and then I guess they made it to South America. They went on like a train.
Well, they chose him on the boat at the end as like Godar's getting all meta, like, they're in love, they think, and they're heading off. This picture was done in Technicolor, and we'll see them next time in the tropics. Bye for now, kind of deal. It's pretty quirky.
So,
okay, yeah, I'm on the same page. The movie, big 3 from me. It's slightly more watchable when you know what's going to happen. There's fun, clever moments in there, but I mean, they're just moments. I mean, moments don't make a movie whole, I don't think. So, yeah, it's definitely not one I just want to be like, hey, you want to watch Band Apart? Yeah, definitely not the most rewatchable art house thing, even though it's only 90 minutes. Just so much of it seems so random and so forth. But I guess back in the day, this was kind of like a breath of fresh air for people. So interesting to see, but not quite my cup of tea.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3. Like I think there are things that are done well, but then also there's just I don't know if it's the time period issue, it being 60 years later that we're watching this and having seen so many other kinds of movies do other stuff or do similar stuff or what. But yeah, it's just a 3. It's not bad. I'm not like upset that I watched it. Like, I mean, it's part of the collection, and it has a big influence, on Quentin, and I've been into that whole watching those kind of movies the last couple of years. So that's like I said, not mad that I watched it, but I don't know if I would just be like, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and watch A Band Apart, So.
And of course, it wasn't on the Criterion Channel. It's like, of course, he had to pick the movie he has that's not on the channel right now.
Oh wow, it wasn't even on the channel. Wow.
It's like 40 movies from Godard on there, and that was not one of them. But Oh well,
I'm sorry.
it's all good.
Look, if I knew it was going to be hard to watch, I would do like I did with the one movie and send you a copy.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. That was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Season 1.
Because we did Whiplash and Tokyo Gore Police. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Tokyo Gore Police, baby. More people should watch that movie. If you're watching this and you have not, or you're listening to this and you have not seen Tokyo Gore Police, well, first off, you should listen to that whole episode because first, Whiplash is a fantastic movie, and everyone should keep our rhythm and watch that movie. But Tokyo Gore Police is a seriously underrated, unknown to most people in America, and it is just gory and hilarious. I mean, someone fucking rocket jumps in like the first 5 seconds of the movie, like in a video game. That's all you need to know. It's fantastic.
It's definitely Joey's tempo. Definitely Joey's tempo.
I mean, that's a little outside of my normal tempo, but it's great. That one's great.
Featured movie 2. All right, let's get into my pick. The Boondock Saints, which I picked because Joey loves it, and he introduced it to me. So back in 1999, the American vigilante action thriller film written and directed by Troy Duffy. And this was his directorial debut. The film follows Irish fraternal twins, Connor and Murphy McManus, who become vigilantes after killing 2 members of the Russian mafia in self-defense. After both experience an epiphany, the twins gather together with their best friend, funny man Rocco, set out on a mission to rid Boston of the criminal underworld in the name of God, all while being pursued by Willem Dafoe, who plays special FBI agent Paul Smecker. He's an FBI agent, Joey.
I'm an FBI agent. I know, isn't it great? It's a much different movie, but also fantastic.
Fun fact, so that wasn't a Catholic church in the beginning. That was a Lutheran church because the Catholic churches in Boston didn't want anything to do with the script. Now you know.
Oh, well, that makes sense. All right, the tattoos that Connor, which is Sean Patrick Flannery, has on his left hand and index finger says Veritas, which is Latin for truth. Murphy, played by a young Walking Dead Norman Reedus, also has a tattoo in the same place, but on his right hand it says Aquatus, which is Latin for justice or equality. So truth and justice. I knew that.
The character David Rocco is named after the actor who plays him because the character was based on and written for him. This is a good one. So Troy Duffy flew to New York City to meet with Ewan McGregor and offer him one of the lead roles during a night out. So Duffy got drunk and they got into an argument about the death penalty. McGregor passed on the movie, and this led to Miramax Films putting the movie in turnaround, whatever that means.
So this movie was given a limited release in the U.S. due to the Columbine massacre. It was only shown in 5 theaters for only 1 week. However, it later developed a large cult success from word of mouth following the success of DVD sales. And I'm not reading that last line because that movie doesn't exist.
Yeah, Boondock Saints 2 sucks.
Yeah, Boondock Saints 2 sucks. Troy Duffy is up there with one of the few directors that had an unfuckable sequel and fucked it up very, very badly. Wachowski siblings are also up there, but not near as bad as Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day. I showed this to a friend of mine, and we were watching it at home. This was not in the theater. We were watching a Blu-ray copy of it in his house, and he was like, this is it finished. He said that was so bad I almost got up and walked out of my own house, to contradict how great the Boondock Saints is. Fantastic.
Well, the second one's just a parody. It's like Terminator 3, where it's like making fun of the previous one, which is,
I mean, yes,
if your movie's that badass, why make fun of it? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, not having there's some characters that are missing that we're gonna go into in here in a second, but there are some characters that were missing, like Julie Benz is a great actress. She was not great in that movie. She did not take over the role of Willem Dafoe very well. Not having Rocco in the movie also sucked, and the Hispanic guy that got in his place was also not great. They waited like 10 years in between movies, and now we're up to like 14. Because you can't make Boondock Saints 3 because of the fucking Walking Dead and the Walking Dead spinoffs. But I always thought it was funny that killing gangsters in New York prepared Norman Reedus to kill zombies in rural Georgia in the apocalypse.
All right, let's go into some of our notes for this. So you definitely cannot go wrong with old Irish tunes over shots of Boston. But yeah, The Departed did do it much better.
I mean, okay, but to be fair, The Departed is an actual, like, what's the word I want to look for? Good movie, like a great movie, like
Scorsese.
It's a Scorsese movie, and one of Scorsese's better movies. Even if, he stole it from Infernal Affairs, that's neither here nor there. But yes, like, The Boondock Saints is many things. It's not an actual Academy Award-winning great movie. It's just a great cult movie that at this point it's been a part of my life since I was in high school. Like, it's ridiculous.
Nice. So, are you familiar with the lady in I think they're Allstate commercials where she's like, "That's not going to fit."
No, I can't say that I am.
Okay, so that's Dot Marie Jones, and she appears in this movie at the meat processing plant, and she goes to kick one of the guys in the junk after I guess she mentioned something about, like, back in the day women got beat or something.
Okay, so the brothers were trying to train her. It was her first day at the meatpacking plant, and he is Sean Patrick Flannery's character, I'm pretty sure, goes, the rule of wrist around here, and she goes, "Oh, the rule of wrist. Well, you know what the rule of wrist is? Well, the rule of wrist came from when it was you were legally allowed to beat your wives as long as the stick was no bigger than or he said the rule of thumb." And he's like, "Oh, you can't do much damage with that. Maybe it should be the rule of wrist." And she's like, "Oh, I knew I was going to have problems with you." And she kicks one in the dick, and then the other one punches her. So that's, like, pretty much one of the first scenes of the movie, besides the church scene. But, yeah.
All right. So, this Troy guy, okay, so the director really likes a lot of spinning camera movement and throughout. I mean, I like the style, but... yeah, I definitely wanted to point out that whenever you see a lot of a certain camera movie, definitely want to note it. Make like a tree and get the fuck out of here, Joey. I didn't know trees could get the fuck out of here. We gotta get you like a problems work or something. This mix and match shit's gotta go. Was that a line in the movie?
Yes, that is a line in the movie. So they have this bar that they go to, and the bartender is an older gentleman. He has Tourette's, but he also mixes up proverbs, and they make fun of it a few times. Not like to be mean, but like joshing at him because they love this guy. So yeah.
So the brothers kind of have this silly side to them, but the movie is structured. So it's like something's about to happen, and then they like jump forward like to the police like discussing it in a very entertaining way, and then we finally go back and see what actually happened in the action scene, which was a really good way of building suspense. Like, you're like, oh, something's about to happen, and then we jump forward and kind of talk about it, and eventually go back and see what happened. But this movie really balances kind of that silly side the brothers have with like the badass stuff, which the sequel does not mix those two things well at all.
Also, I would like to point out that this definitely feels like Troy Duffy was like, I want to make a Quentin Tarantino movie. I want to make my Pulp Fiction. I want to show you something's going to happen, and then something has happened, and then we're going to go back to it. So it very much felt like, and especially with some of like the clips and the dialogue and stuff, I'm not trying to say he like ripped off Quentin. Like, I definitely feel like he was inspired by, or wanted to try his lot in that. Which in 1999, Pulp Fiction was just a few years before that.
Definitely that era.
I mean, that was one of the big movies, like like especially like for gangster movies and that kind of thing in that time period. So definitely makes a lot of sense.
Wow, portable CD players haven't quite aged like fine wine. They're pretty clunky whenever you look back on them, but still a great scene with Defoe listening to the classical music and kind of getting his mind around that crime scene.
That and that, your first introduction to him, and you have Greenlee, who is sitting there going, he's just spouting off these ridiculous theories. So the setup here, if you haven't seen this movie, is there's two Russian gangsters that are dead in an alley, and one's got a bandage on his ass and the other's got a bandage on his head. And at this point, we don't know what has happened to them. The only thing we know is they showed up at the bar where the brothers were
Talking shit.
Talking shit because they had bought the guy had until the end of the week, and they were like, hey, it's St. Patrick's Day, everyone's Irish today, and the dude gets all shitty. And then Rocco asked one of my favorite questions of all time in a movie. He's like, hey, Boris, what would you do if your pinko commie mother sucked so much dick that her face looked like an egg? That leads to a giant fight, and then the next thing we see is the two guys dead on the ground. And Greenlee is like, oh, what's better for a strong arm robbery? Two guys are already beat up. This is serial crusher. So what he does is he hits the guy in the head, because the guy with the bandage on the ass, he's going nowhere. Where are you going? Fucking nowhere. And he keeps, serial crusher guy and huge friggin' guy. And then Smecker shows up, and the head of the police department's like, we're going to have this guy take over. And he's like, who are you? And he just whips his, pulls his coat off so you can see his badge or his ID. And he's like, this is who the fuck I am. Sends him to get coffee, which ends up becoming like a recurring joke throughout the movie. And then we get the scene where he's looking for a bullet in a brick wall with the classical music playing. And that is one thing that they do well, especially in the scenes with Willem Dafoe, is that classical music that's set to these scenes. You get later into the movie, in the whole there's a firefight. Like, they do that in this movie very well. I think if you take that element out of this movie, even with all the badass action scenes and all of that kind of stuff, this movie is taken down a lot by not having that music. And I think go back to what I was saying about being definitely inspired from Tarantino. Think about Tarantino's use of music. Music that doesn't necessarily, maybe you wouldn't think would fit. Like, you wouldn't expect classical music in a big gangster shootout movie. You would expect maybe, something for the time period or something of that nature, and not, traditional classical style music. And then, he makes it work. So
Smecker's an interesting character. He's kind of persnickety, and we do find out he's gay, but he's definitely more of a bear because, if you act more feminine around you, he's definitely gonna put you in your place. So it's fun to hear him have that kind of different styled, homosexual man.
So another thing, watching this movie in 2023, do you notice how much they smoke versus like a movie that's made now, where even the good guys smoke, where they smoke in like every fucking scene? Everybody is smoking. Cops, bad guys, everybody smokes. There's house phones, which are a relic.
There's a lot of smoking in Band Apart. I definitely noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, they're French.
Well, and it was the 60s.
Yep.
But there's just there's a lot of, I think in one of my reviews where I talk about how it is a relic of 99. So that also comes up when you're talking about Paul Smecker and people being more feminine, because there is a scene where he drops a slur that was fine to say in 1999 that is definitely not fine to say now, unless you're Irish and referring to a cigarette, and then that's a different thing. But in America, not cool to say anymore.
Buns of fire, flaming ass. Yeah, that was a wild scene where they tie him to the bar and set his ass on fire. The big Russian guy.
When we go back and they finally find the McManus brothers, because there's this big hunt for them, and they're recalling.
And they stumble into the police station because they're a little beat up, right?
Yeah, they're a little beat up. They come from the hospital, and they had, they're recalling what happened in between. We see them start the bar fight into all the way of the fight in the alley. So you see them start the fight in the bar fight, and eventually they take one of the guys and they've got him tied down to the bar, and they pour some booze on him and light it on fire. And then you fast forward to the next day, and the two Russians show up, and they make one of the brothers cuff himself to the toilet, and he points his humongous gun at the guy, and you can see like the hammer and sickle in the top of the gun, which I thought was kind of cool. Not needed, but cool. I didn't catch it until like a couple years ago, and I've seen the movie 100 times. So
have you ever seen Trainspotting?
I have not seen Trainspotting yet.
The moment where like he lifts up the toilet whenever he's like handcuffed to it, and like the music's jamming, that's like definitely like feels like Trainspotting. Danny Boyle.
Okay, cool. But yeah, like you said, he takes his other brother, and he takes Daryl. He takes Daryl, and he's gonna kill him. And he's like, "This was a bar fight. You guys are a bunch of pussies." And so Sean Patrick Flannery pulls him. He's got his long cuffs, because short cuffs wouldn't have worked. It's these long cuffs, and he rips the toilet out of the floor, and then drops the toilet from the roof onto one of the guys and falls down onto the other one, beats him to death with the top of the toilet. They take their guns, their jewelry, their money, their pager. The pager is important. All of that. And then they go to the hospital, and then, they're now telling Agent Smecker everything, and you find out that they can speak like 5 or 6 languages, German and Irish, or Gaelic, and Spanish and Italian. And they end up spending the night actually in the jail, not because they're being charged. They just don't want to deal with the press.
Yep, stay away from the media.
Yeah, and that leads to another great piece of humor in there, where there's like a younger police officer comes in, and he's like, "Hey, these guys are just going crazy," and he's like, Smecker's like, "Y'all aren't being charged. You want to talk to them?" No. And they ask if they could stay here, and the cop's like, "Oh, we've got an extra jail cell. You can stay in." And he's, he looks at Agent Smecker, and he's like, "Is that fine?" And he's like, "Well, I have to ask your mom, but it's okay with me if your friends stay over." And it's just like these little intermittent pieces of where they like throw in this humor, because there is just a lot of violence. But that's when they have the revelation, is while they're staying in the jail cell, and then the pager goes off. And the next morning, the pager goes off, and they take down the number to go to the plaza. And then they go to some underground place and sell all the stuff they have to buy more guns.
Oh, the Irish Arsenal thing, where like they see the Irish flag, and there's like all these like sniper rifles and cannons, and like they're about to start a war. Yeah,
and so they but you end up getting, just things they mix in that are supposed to be funny that come into play later. Like, he one of them has a giant Rambo knife. You know what I'm talking about. When I say a Rambo knife, you know what I mean. And the other one's like, "I'm gonna get some rope," and he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Well, they always need it in the movies." And he's like, "Well, this ain't no movie." And he's like, "Charlie Bronson always needs his rope."
It's a bad TV show.
Is that right, Rambo? And then I see, I think I might have skipped where Ron Jeremy is in this.
Yep. He's a dirty old man as usual. It's Ron Jeremy.
Well, he is in the mafia. He is an underboss. He's the underboss to Don Papa Joe Iacovetta.
They're talking to Rocco, and they want Rocco because he's the funny man and tell a joke. So he says a joke all about like getting the minorities out of America or whatever, and they correct him and make sure he's using all the slurs in order to make it a good racist joke. So
yeah, it's a good racist joke. I did like this where they're waiting for Papa Joe, and he's on the phone, and all of a sudden he fucking slams the phone down, and he's like, "You have to tiptoe through the tulips of these assholes. You're not supposed to tell a man you'll kill him no more. The 90s are killing me." And that's why, he wants to hear a joke. I know the joke, but I'm not gonna say it because, like Justin said, it is racist. And he, like they said, Rocco does try to say it with more politically correct terms, but they keep making sure that he uses the expletive versions of those terms to get the joke across, and they laugh eventually at it. So I guess he doesn't die there. So
tell me another joke. And he's like, "What?" Oh, I think my favorite quote from the movie. What is the symbolism, Joey? The symbolism.
I believe the word you're looking for is it's not symbolism, Justin. What you're looking for is symbology. What is the symbology? I believe the word you're looking for is symbolism. What is the symbolism? And then we hear nameology later, making fun of detective dude has a very Greek name that I cannot remember. It is super Greek.
So accurate
that is-
for shooting upside down and twirling in a circle.
Oh yes, it's very accurate. But I mean, they did have the surprise. These guys were sitting down, not expecting.
They start arguing in the vent too, right? It's a whole clusterfuck. So I think that's probably one of my favorite ones for like figuring out what the fuck happened because it was such a clusterfuck.
Yeah, and this whole thing here is great because they fall down through the ceiling, they shoot the guys, they execute the big man, and then they're standing there talking, and they're like, "Yeah, you always got that one guy who jumps over the couch, and you got to shoot him for like 10 fucking minutes." And then they find the case of money, and then there's a knock at the door, and they look through the door, and there's Rocco, aka Jafar, there to deliver him his food. So they're like, we've got to fuck with him, because of course we've just committed 9 murders. We can just stand in this room and just fuck with our friend who just showed up. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So they drag him in. They stick their guns in the face and start interrogating him, and then they find out that he only had a 6-shooter and there was like 9 people. But they tell him that they're fucking with him. They reveal, they take their mask off because they have actual ski masks, not stockings like in Goddard. And then comes one of my favorite scenes in movie history. How's you two fucking fucks fucking fuck what the fuck fuck, and then well, it certainly illustrates the diversity in the word now, doesn't it? But basically here,
slow motion violence a lot of times in this too.
Yeah, like it's very stylized, very very stylized.
Caught me off guard when that one section went black and white when the church music cranks up and they're doing the whole like putting the coins in their eyes, for the dead ceremony kind of thing.
Yeah, pay the toll to Karan.
Oh yeah, I think you just mentioned that part where they like to fuck with Rocco when they're at gunpoint. It's like maybe you shouldn't be pulling somebody's chain at gunpoint. It's a little kind of intense, man. Oh, and speaking of Pulp Fiction, when they blow the cat away,
bro, that cat. So one of my buddies back when we were in school, it was either in high school or it might have been after I came back from college. You would have still been in college. We were watching it on a PC, and he slowed it down frame by frame. You can see the cat explode. Now, obviously, it's not a real cat. They didn't shoot a real cat back in 1999, but you could see just the explosion of this cat, which leads to this movie's just. It's just so many scenes. So this, you see the Rocco. They're trying to tell Rocco like, "Hey, this was a setup," and he's like, "That's just not how it works." And Rocco leaves, and then you see him, and he comes back, and he's freaking out. His girlfriend has showed up. His girlfriend and her friend have showed up, and are just chilling. And on the way before he leaves to go to work, he's like, "Hey, bury the cat," and they're like, "Is your girlfriend gonna be mad?" She's like, "Fuck him. She would have sold it for a dime bag." So they get a phone call, and it's like, "Catch you on the flip side." And then next thing you know, he's running in. He's going nuts. He's like he picks up the randomest shit. It's like some records, an iron, all sorts of shit. He's throwing in bags. He's like, "Get your shit. We gotta go." And then the girls are like, "Yo, Rocco, hey, where's our cat?" And he's like, "I killed your cat, you druggy bitch. Why? I thought it'd bring closure to our relationship." And she's like, "I can't believe you do that to my precious little," and he pulls his gun out and he's like, "I'll shoot myself in the head if you can tell me that cat's name." And then she names it. It's Skippy. And he's like, "What color was it, bitch?" And then her friend tries to stand up for her, and she's like, he pulls the gun and points it at her and says some very disparaging things about how many people that she has been with. And then they leave. And you get the flashback to what happens where he goes into the deli. A couple of guys, they're like, "Oh, I bet it was a test. We did our part. You did yours. We got our funny bone. But fuck it, they know we're good fellas." And then he finds out, that everybody knew they were going to that he was basically being sent to die. So he kills those guys. He kills the bartender. It's all in broad daylight. I'm sorry, the fat fuck bartender, as Greenlee will say later. So, yeah, and then after that, he's trying to determine how they have a system, and he's like, "It's me. I'm the guy. I know everybody. I know where they live. I know who they're fucking." And so then they decide they're going to kill Ron Jeremy.
Yep, and that's the whole jerk-off strip joint massacre thing where they're talking about looking down the different peepholes and shooting through the one-way glass, right?
Yeah. So they go in. He makes his own ski mask out of a toboggan, and he's like, "No, you look scary, man. You look like Mushmouth."
From Fat Albert, right?
From Fat Albert. And he goes in, and the stripper she passes out, and he like squeezes her tit, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'll tip her." But yeah, they look down, and they kill Ron Jeremy, and then they're like, "Oh man, this is like scumbag warehouse. We can come down here and clean house every day." And but then Rocco's like, "Yo, let me get my shot." And so he tries to shoot into these other guys, and he misses, and then he spins the guns, and he crosses them and shoots. He's like, "Wyatt fucking Earp!"
You got a cowboy here.
It leads to Paul Smecker being super confused because they've got good shooting. He's like, good shooting, shitty shooting, and then Kennedy style bullet theory with this guy was killed with gun A, but there's bullets from gun B in the wall, and this guy was killed with gun B, but there's bullets from gun A in the wall. And then they tell him about the deli shooting, and he starts freaking out. And then Rocco, Smecker is 100% like the fucking, besides Rocco, he is some of the comedic relief, because his dramatizations and acting is ridiculous. Somewhere in this is Papa Joe goes to like his great uncle, I guess.
Whenever they get the badass out of jail.
Yeah. So they can get Il Duce out of jail, and so then now you have this guy who likes to kill wise guys, likes to kill people who kills people on the loose. They're getting him out of prison, but the Saints, they've got one more stop before that kind of showdown happens. So Rocco tells him about this guy who, it's essentially, he was an assassin, a hitman. He goes in, kills a house like he was ordering a fucking pizza, as they say in the movie. So they go, and we're outside of the crime scene, and Paul Smecker, he's like, this is what happened. And it shows them going in, how they get in, and they go into basically this room that you can only be let in from the inside. And people are playing poker and playing pool and stuff, and they just go in there, the three of them, and they just massacre like everybody. They shoot the guy under the pool table, and then Rocco starts freaking out because the guy they were looking for wasn't there. He's in the bathroom. He actually pulls the towel rack off the wall. Rocco shoots him in the gut, and he still comes after him, and the Saints are like, yo, he's got to fight him, earn his stripes, and he ends up beating him to death with a pool cue. So, then they leave out the front door of the house, and there's, as this scene is fucking chef's kiss. This is the one where he holds the gun up in the sky, and it's like, there's a firefight.
Yep, I did this quote in one of our episodes. There was a firefight. And you have Defoe pointing his gun up in the air like it's like Platoon or something. Good stuff.
And then, he's like, it was a fucking ambush. They were 6 men with guns drawn, where you see the audience, there's only one man with 6 guns.
Which Rocco, I think, confirms later, right? One of them confirms it.
Yeah, well, one of the brothers does confirm it later. But Greenlee is like, what if it was one guy with 6 guns? And he's like, the day I want the Boston PD to do my thinking for me, I'll have a tag on my foot. But so you see this big shootout, and the cars are being, destroyed, and he's taking the guns and dropping them.
Defoe's doing like the air guns, which is a nice touch.
And then the brothers, they actually get shot. One of them gets the arm, one gets the leg, and Rocco gets his finger shot off. And then so you see they run away at the end.
There's blood all over the columns, and
Yep.
where's my blood samples? But they wiped it all down with ammonia, and Smecker's
his-
just like, I've never seen anything like this, and he's freaking out, and he dives in the bushes,
in the
and
blood,
there's
and
Rocco's
smells
finger.
it, and everyone's looking at him like he's crazy. And there's the scene in the earlier where he had to like put all the blood. He was wearing gloves with the blood in his hair. And then we get to one of the scene you talked about earlier where he's well, no, this is a different scene where he's at a bar, he's at a gay bar drinking, and the bartender tries to cut him off, and he calls him a fairy fuck. And then they have the scene in the church where Rocco tries to intimidate the priest and tell him, because the Smecker who's an atheist, is looking for answers.
Yeah, giving a confession there.
Yeah,
kind of digs into the whole concept of like he's like justice and he wants to do good, but his hands are tied. But like he stands behind the saints because they're actually able to put action to it. I really enjoyed like the grainy news footage throughout. It actually looked like real news footage. So that was kind of cool. How it was the same reporter throughout and reporting on all these goings on in Boston.
Yeah, no, that's super great, and I love that even like updated, it still looks grainy on the news. It looks like it's from 1999. Yeah, it's super great.
Oh, that's right. Whenever they get all tore up, they patch each other up by scalding each other with the iron to seal it up.
Randomly thrown in the bag, and they have to heat it on like a gas stove because everybody in the movies always has a gas stove. There's no electric
lighting cigarettes on gas stoves, and
yeah. So, but yeah, they all cauterize the wounds, and then they finally they get in touch with Smecker, tell him they're going to hit up Papa Joe's, and then they're leaving for New York, and then Papa Joe goes I think his name is Augustus, and finds out that they've got Il Duce, like every gun's up in the city at Papa Joe's house where the Saints are going. And then they catch them coming in through the basement and end up shooting and killing Rocco, unfortunately. Papa Joe pulls out a fucking hand cannon and just blows them away, and he's like, I'm leaving. You guys handle this. And then the other guys are like, yo, what about Il Duce? He still thinks it's on. And he's like, motherfucker still thinks it's on, and he's in the bushes. I'm going, you handle it. And so he leaves. And then the next thing you know,
Smecker shows up at cross-dressing.
Dressed up, cross-dressed, saying that Joey Bevo sent him over, and the dude's like, oh my God, Joey Bevo is always sending us Primo box. So the dude invites him in to get laid. He ends up killing Smecker ends up killing the gangster and says that he took it too far, but he puts his wig back on and goes to go out, and he sees another gang member with his throat slit, and then Il Duce bashes him in the back of the head with a gun because Il Duce does not kill women or children, and Paul Smecker looks like a woman because he's dressed as a woman.
Yeah, there you go.
And then he goes downstairs into the basement, and the brothers have gotten out of their chairs where they're handcuffed.
They're bloody as fuck too.
Yeah, one of them kicked the other one until he like broke or dislocated his thumb and could slide his hand out, and they're reciting their prayer over their brother, over Rocco, and then they pull the guns on Il Duce, and then Il Duce starts reciting the prayer as well. And we learned earlier in the movie, Rocco had asked to learn the prayer, and they said, no, that was our fathers before us, and his fathers before him's prayer. We can't teach you that. So that then lets you know that Il Duce is the boy's father. So then he finishes the prayer. We cut forward to a scene where they're talking about, are they going to how far are they going to take it? And then they're in a courtroom.
Yep. Public execution.
We have
codes of behavior.
You have all the news reporters talking, saying this is so many third trial in like 18 months or something, and he'll be the next John Gotti, he'll walk. And then, Smecker is there, and they let him in, and they come through the back and throw their guns up over the metal detectors, and then they go into the courtroom and grab Papa Joe, and El Duce is holding the shotgun to him, and while the brothers do their little speech about, we don't want your sick or your poor, it's your corrupt that we want, and they list, do not rape, do not murder, do not steal. These are things that any man of any religion can embrace, and but if you cross over, you'll see we three, and then we'll send you to whatever God you wish. And then they all put iron to the back of his head. You see Paul, Agent Smecker, looking through the door. You hear the 3 gunshots. You hear the 2 silenced pistols, and then the huge shotgun blast. Everyone running out of there, trying to talk to the media, and then you get actually what might be one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
The man on the street segment.
It's the man on the street during the credits where they're interviewing everybody about the Boondock Saints. And
about being vigilantes, is it justice, and so forth.
It reminds me of what like a Twitter fight would, like how big a Twitter fight this would be. I'm sorry, an X fight, but Twitter in like today's world over this, because you've got people who are like, you're gonna have Batman, Superman, and these saints, and then like this isn't justice, they just like killing people, and then they're like, are you losing any sleep? I'm not losing any sleep. And then don't say that, your mom will see you. And then there's the one guy he kind of has an effeminate voice, and he's like, I want to do it too. I want to get busy. I want to get busy. But yeah, no, the whole movie, if you can't tell, I fucking love this movie. And like Justin said at the beginning, I didn't rewatch this for this podcast. Like I said, I watched it twice this year. All this is just straight. This is how many times I've watched this movie. I clearly 5 stars. We'll give it 10 stars. We'll give it 20 stars, whatever. It's obviously it's not Casablanca or anything like that, but it is, especially from a movie from the 90s. You do, if you've never seen it and you try to look at it through a lens of 2023, the slurs and that kind of stuff, and like the smoking and that kind of stuff, which is
it's a gangster movie. It's what to be expected.
Yeah, it's a gangster movie. I mean, but like, I know there are people, who you're going to get, oh, I can't believe they said that, whatever. But yes, it's not a movie about good people. Even the good people, the vigilantes, I mean, they are killing people, like, pretty viciously. But it is like I said, a relic of its time, but it's super great. It's a lot of fun. It's so quotable. It's just got all of these just great moments, and this humor, like you said, just mixed in with all of the violence.
Yep, very entertaining crime drama with with morals, a little humor, a lot of badass moments. I'd keep that at a 4.5. Like, I really enjoy it, but didn't quite get up to 5 yet. But I definitely liked it more the last time I saw it. I don't know. There's a couple of moments that felt a little disjointed with the transitions, but that's pretty nitpicky. It's a pretty good movie, good show.
So, is this one of the movies you said I shared it to you? Is this the one? Did we watch this the day that it snowed 16.5 inches of snow?
I think we saw Goodfellas and Boondock Saints. I think the same day. I think we did like a double feature.
Okay, yeah. So that was the day. So we went to school in Rock Hill, which is pretty much the South Carolina side of Charlotte, and both of us being from a much southern part of the state, Justin even more southern than I. I'm in the northeast corner, and you're on the coast, kind of in the middle, I guess.
Charleston.
Yeah, in Charleston. And so 16.5 inches of snow to us is a lot. Being in South Carolina. It was essentially a blizzard. Like, the whole rest of the state was like covered in ice. It was crazy. But I remember us, we were trying to go to a frat party, to the fraternity that we both ended up joining. And we tried to dig your car out, and we couldn't dig your car out. And then you're like, we'll walk there. And we got like part of the way through like the parking lot, and we're like, we can't walk. Like, the snow was coming up to like our knees and shit. We were gonna have to walk literally from one end of campus to the other end of campus, and then down another road, like off campus, to the fraternity house. So to the teak house, as it were. And so we decided against that. and we walked up the road. Luckily, they do get snow up there, so they had snow plows and stuff. So they did snow plowed the road.
Like
We were
one.
walking, yeah, we walked up the Cherry Road to the Walgreens.
And you in your flip flops.
You were in Birkenstocks with socks on and got wet, and you freezing. And I don't know why I remember this, but we got guacamole Doritos because I had never had those chips before, and I did not like guacamole, but the guacamole Doritos were fantastic. And then we drank. I'm pretty sure we drank some JD and watched those movies. And I feel like we played NCAA football too.
Probably on the GameCube.
Yeah, on GameCube. I had made the Winthrop Eagles, and you had made the Mordor
Overlords.
Overlords. Yeah, with the Omega symbol. Oh man, it was fucking great times. Great
Memory Road right there.
times. Yes.
All right, so what movie are we gonna watch next?
What was it you said to me earlier? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Oh,
I'm
Die
gonna watch
Hard?
the greatest Christmas movie, as I'm sure it'll be December before we record this. And you literally just watched Home Alone, so I wasn't gonna force you to watch that like 2 weeks after you watched it.
Okay. So I was digging through, what you've seen this year, and I was thinking about Mean Girls, but you saw that not too long ago. But definitely want to stay on theme with our mini series of movies that we've both enjoyed together. So I'm gonna go with Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, hell yeah. I have not seen that in a hot minute, but I do love that movie. That movie has some good shit.
You were in Charleston one time, and we hooked up, and let's watch a movie. Checked out my dad's huge DVD shelf, and we picked off good Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise and Christian Slater movie, and
Kirsten Dunst and the Hispanic gentleman whose name I cannot remember all.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, Banderas. Yeah, and it's got great music. Got some good music in it as well. So hell yeah, that's a interesting combination. But I'm here for it.
Die Hard, Interview with the Vampire. All right, if you'd like us to answer any questions on the show, just send it to our email address, theaveragejoesmovieclubcast@gmail.com.
Or, always, we talk about Letterboxd all the time. Obviously, We're on there. That'll be in the description below. The links there, the links to Twitter, where we have a Twitter account for the show, our own personal Twitters, what have you. But yeah, just hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. That is a good way to get on the show. We had a gentleman recommend a movie that ended up on the podcast, ended up making it a 3-episode movie, and then that's how Ronan got in, and he's been on the main cast now. He was on the Halloween episode, the one right before this one, episode 65, I believe. And then he's also been on a couple of your podcasts for I've Always Wanted to Watch This, and I think just general movie talk. So that's also how you met Adam, right?
Well, I met Adam on Letterboxd, and then transitioned to doing a few casts with them. Recently did another cast with the Underdogs.
Cinematic Underdogs.
Right. Yeah, he had a bunch of his old guests come on and do a sports draft, which that was a lot of fun.
I need to listen to that. You messaged me about that.
I think that dropped today, so yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I just got the notification on Twitter, I think yesterday, but it also reminds me that I think it was yesterday, or it might have been the day before, that we actually, the episode that you and I were on for them dropped, and it was like a triple dip. We had that, a regular episode podcast, and an episode of Schlock Talk that we dropped all in the same day like 2 years ago. So
nice.
Good times. So
yeah, times be flying.
They do be flying. They do be flying. But Justin, why do we do this show?
Because we love talking about movies.
Good night, everybody. Duval!
It was a firefight! Good night, everyone.